A B-52 bomber breaks apart over sleeping farmland in North Carolina at 2 in the morning. Two hydrogen bombs fall through the darkness toward American soil. Each one carries 260 times the destructive power of Hiroshima. Inside one of them, safety switches begin clicking off, one after another. The weapon is arming itself for detonation. Only a single switch stands between a routine training flight and the obliteration of everything within a 17-mile radius. The B-52 Stratofortress had been airborne for hours, tracing its assigned route through the winter darkness over the Atlantic. Inside the cockpit, the crew followed procedures they'd rehearsed countless times. This was Operation Chrome Dome, the Strategic Air Command's answer to Cold War paranoia. Bombers loaded with live nuclear weapons circling the skies, ready to strike the Soviet Union at a moment's notice. 8 men shared the cramped interior of the aircraft, surrounded by instruments, fuel tanks, and 2 Mark 39 hydrogen bombs, each carrying a yield of 4 megatons. At 12:30 a.m. somewhere over North Carolina, the routine shattered. A fuel leak had been developing in the right wing, unnoticed in the darkness. Jet fuel streamed into the night air. The wing's structural integrity began to fail. The aircraft lurched. Warning lights flashed across the instrument panel. The pilots fought the controls, but the B-52 was tearing itself apart. Metal groaned and buckled. The right wing folded upward, then ripped away from the fuselage entirely. The plane went into a violent spin. Major Walter Tulloch gave the order to bail out. The crew had seconds. Some managed to reach their ejection seats. Others scrambled toward escape hatches as the aircraft disintegrated around them. Centrifugal force pinned men against bulkheads. Night air screamed through gaps in the fuselage. One by one, ejection seats fired, hurling crew members into the freezing darkness at 10,000 feet. The B-52 broke into pieces, tumbling toward the ground, and with it fell 2 hydrogen bombs. Below, the town of Faro slept. Farmhouses dotted the flat tobacco fields. Families lay in their beds, unaware that the sky above them had just released weapons capable of erasing everything within a radius of miles. The bombs tumbled through the black air, separated from the disintegrating aircraft, falling faster with every second. Their arming mechanisms, designed to activate during a deliberate release, began responding to the chaos of the fall. One bomb's parachute deployed, slowing its descent. The other plummeted without restraint, accelerating toward impact. Inside each weapon, a sequence of safety switches stood between dormancy and detonation. These switches existed to prevent accidental explosions, fail-safes built into a device meant to end cities. But the violent breakup of the aircraft had triggered conditions the bombs interpreted as intentional deployment. Electrical connections severed and reconnected. Barometric sensors measured altitude. Internal timers began counting. On the ground, no sirens sounded. No warnings reached the families sleeping in Faro. The bombs fell in silence, invisible against the night sky, carrying enough destructive power to turn the eastern seaboard into a radiological wasteland. The people below had no seconds to run, no time to take shelter. They simply existed in the last moments before physics and chance would decide their fate. The crew members who had successfully ejected drifted down through the darkness on their parachutes, watching the flaming wreckage of their aircraft spiral toward the earth. They had no way of knowing whether the bombs would detonate. They had no way to warn anyone. They could only fall and wait, and hope that the fail-safes would hold. On the ground, the 2 bombs followed very different paths. The first weapon descended exactly as designed. Its parachute deployed perfectly, slowing its fall through the freezing night air. It drifted down over the farmland like some monstrous seed, settling into a tree near the edge of a field. The impact was gentle. The casing remained intact. When recovery teams reached it hours later, they found it hanging there, suspended in the branches. A 4-ton hydrogen bomb waiting quietly in the Carolina darkness. The second bomb had no such grace. Its parachute failed to deploy. It fell free, accelerating through 3 miles of open air, building speed until it struck the earth at terminal velocity. The impact drove it deep into the soft, waterlogged soil of a tobacco field. The weapon punched through mud and clay, burying itself so far down that the crater filled immediately with groundwater. By the time the first responders arrived, there was only a gaping hole and the smell of churned earth. The bomb itself had vanished into the ground. Recovery crews worked through the night, then through the next day, and the day after that. They brought in cranes and pumps. They dug. The mud kept collapsing back into the pit. The water kept rising. It took weeks to reach the weapon. When they finally did, they couldn't extract it completely. Parts of the bomb remain buried there still, too deep to recover, entombed in North Carolina soil. But it was the bomb in the tree that changed everything. When the Air Force weapons specialists examined it, they found something that turned their blood cold. They opened the casing and traced the arming sequence, checking each safety mechanism one by one. The first switch had failed. The second had failed. The third, fourth, and fifth all failed. 5 separate safeguards, designed to prevent accidental detonation, had been bypassed or triggered by the fall. Only one switch remained in the safe position. A single low-voltage arming mechanism. One switch, holding back 3.8 megatons of thermonuclear force. If that final switch had closed, the bomb would have detonated. Not over some distant enemy. Not in a test range. Right there, in the farmland outside Goldsboro, the blast would have vaporized everything within a 2-mile radius. The fireball alone would have been visible from Raleigh. The fallout plume would have stretched up the eastern seaboard, depending on the wind, contaminating cities from North Carolina to New York. The margin between catastrophe and survival had come down to a single component, a tiny piece of circuitry that happened to stay in the correct position. One switch. That was all. Most people stop at the surface of history, but you're still here. So if you want the parts they don't teach, the truths buried beneath time, consider subscribing and becoming part of those who chose to see it all. Now, let's continue. The second bomb was somewhere beneath them. Somewhere in the waterlogged clay and sand of a North Carolina tobacco field. A Mark 39 hydrogen bomb, fully armed, carrying enough uranium-235 to ignite a thermonuclear reaction 260 times more powerful than Hiroshima, had buried itself deep into the earth. The recovery teams knew it was down there. They just couldn't reach it. Excavation began immediately. Heavy machinery tore into the field, carving out a crater that grew wider and deeper with each passing day. 20 feet down, 30 feet. The diggers hit groundwater. Pumps roared day and night, fighting the swamp that kept refilling the pit. 40 feet, 50. The soil turned to slurry. Steel cables snapped under the weight of mud-caked equipment. Engineers calculated the bomb had punched through soft ground at terminal velocity, driving itself deeper than any crane could pull. Weeks passed. The crater became a lake. Divers went down into the murky water, groping blindly through silt and debris. They found pieces, twisted metal fragments, sections of casing. But the core, the uranium sphere at the heart of the weapon, stayed buried. The military made a decision. They couldn't get it out. The fissile material, the actual fuel for a hydrogen bomb, would remain in the ground, indefinitely. They bought the land, sealed the site, and walked away. Then the documents surfaced. Declassified reports, stamped secret for decades, revealed what investigators found inside the first bomb, the one they did recover. Of the 6 safety mechanisms designed to prevent accidental detonation, 5 had failed. 5. The weapon had armed itself during the fall. The firing sequence had initiated. One switch, a single low-voltage arm-safe mechanism, had remained in the safe position. That was all. That was the only thing standing between a Tuesday morning and the obliteration of everything within a 17-mile radius. One switch, one piece of metal in one position. The difference between a crash site and a crater the size of a city. The wreckage was cleared. The farmland returned to quiet. But inside the Pentagon, the questions had only just begun. When investigators examined the recovered bomb, they found something that turned blood cold. 3 of the 4 safety mechanisms had failed. The armed light was on. The firing sequence had begun. Only a single low-voltage switch, a component no more sophisticated than a household circuit breaker, had stood between North Carolina and annihilation. If that switch had closed on impact, the weapon would have detonated with a yield of 3.8 megatons, 260 times the power of Hiroshima. The blast would have vaporized everything within a 3-mile radius. The fireball alone would have been visible from Virginia. Raleigh, 60 miles away, would have faced third-degree burns and shattered windows. Radioactive fallout would have spread across the eastern seaboard, rendering entire cities uninhabitable for generations. The Air Force classified the findings immediately, but the internal review went deeper. Analysts pulled records from every nuclear accident in the Strategic Air Command's history. What they found was a pattern. This was not an isolated failure. It was a symptom. In 1966, a B-52 collided with a tanker over Palomares, Spain. 4 hydrogen bombs fell into farmland and the Mediterranean. 2 detonated their conventional explosives, scattering plutonium across the countryside. The recovery operation took months. 1 bomb was never fully cleaned up. In 1968, another B-52 crashed near Thule Air Base in Greenland. 4 more bombs. The impact broke them apart on the ice. Radioactive debris spread across frozen tundra. The cleanup required 700 men in hazmat suits and took 7 months. 1 weapon's secondary core was never recovered. There were others. A bomb lost off the coast of Georgia in 1958, still sitting somewhere in the mud of Wassaw Sound. A near miss in New Mexico. Another in Texas. The files revealed dozens of incidents, some catastrophic, some narrowly avoided, all kept from public view. Goldsboro forced a reckoning. The Pentagon quietly ordered a complete redesign of the safety systems on every nuclear weapon in the American arsenal. New protocols, new fail-safes, new training standards. The changes were implemented without announcement, without acknowledgement of what had nearly happened. But in the farmland outside Goldsboro, one piece of the story remained. The secondary core of the second bomb, still buried 20 feet down in waterlogged soil. The Air Force had tried to dig it out and failed. The ground was too unstable, the water table too high. So they did the only thing they could. They bought the land, sealed the records, and walked away. For 52 years, the site sat undisturbed. The government owned it. No one could build there. No one could drill. The core stayed in the ground, a silent testament to the margin by which disaster had been avoided. Then in 2013, a Freedom of Information Act request forced the release of a previously classified document. A 1969 report written by Parker F. Jones, a supervisor in the Atomic Energy Commission's Nuclear Safety Division. In it, Jones described the Goldsboro incident in blunt terms. He confirmed what investigators had known all along. The bomb had been one switch away from detonation. He called it a miracle that it had not gone off. He noted that if the weapon had exploded, it would have been the largest accidental nuclear detonation in history. On American soil, by an American bomb. The document's release made headlines for a day. Then it faded. The farmland is still there. The core is still buried. The switch that saved North Carolina sits in a storage facility somewhere, tagged and cataloged, a relic of the moment America almost destroyed itself. How many times can a single switch be all that stands between survival and annihilation before that switch fails?